working harder than ever, and we're still falling farther behind. It's crazy. Everybody is in the exact same situation. Every single person. We are busting our butt, but we're still falling farther behind. And then when we talk about it, we don't act like there's a problem with the system, right? We think it's a problem with us. And that's how we are all working harder than ever and still falling farther behind. And the way that we are economically, our economic situation boxes us in politically. And it's so difficult because so many of us feel the pressure, we feel the problem, we feel that there's 1,000 different issues going on, but it almost feels too big to fix. Well, that's because all of the symptoms, we are being told they are the problems. What's up, Dave? And that's where the deal has been broken. The people up top broke the deal. It's supposed to be that if you work hard and you do what you're told, you keep your head down and eventually you'll get some breathing room. But none of us are getting that breathing room. And if you are feeling this, type of me in the chat, because that is the reality for hundreds of millions of Americans. But when we point out that, yo, we're working full time and still can't catch a break, people blame the individual, right? Rather than being like, oh yeah, my son is in the same situation. Oh yeah, my friend is in the same situation. Oh yeah, everybody I know is in the same situation. We act like it's people's personal problem, right? Like we did something wrong, like it is our fault or something like that. And that really is the system protecting itself, because we are the ones that do all the hard work. But why is it that even though we bust our asses harder than ever, we still aren't able to get ahead? Well, it mainly comes down to they don't need to pay us, right? It doesn't feel like they need to pay us a good salary. It feels like no matter what, they're going to go ahead and take advantage of us. And I just kind of been asking the question, like, why doesn't 40 hours a week cover the basics? Not enough to get rich, not so that you've got 20 grand in savings, like the basics. That's it. People who work full time shouldn't be worried that they have enough money for food. People who work full time should be like set on their food. And it's just everything, the incentives seem all wrong, but because we're basically all treading water, we don't have time to think about it, let alone fix it. That's where I can't decide what it is, but life either feels like walking in the mud or life feels like treading water. But I think it's treading water, because it's really what it is we're treading water, but it's other people keeping us there. Because corporations didn't just take over the economy, they own everything. There's no competition in America today. And if there's no competition, there's no reason to innovate and no reason to raise wages. And if that was the only problem, we'd be able to see that, right? We would say, hey, Walmart and Home Depot and Amazon and Microsoft and all of the monopolies, you're the problem because there's no competition. And if there's no competition, there's no reason to innovate. There's no reason to raise wages, because you don't need to pay a higher salary if your customers can't go shop somewhere else, literally. So they realize something. Well, if we completely control the economy, we just can't dominate them there. We have to control the narrative. We've got to control the media as well, too. So they make sure the only people that see the truth, that, hey, the economy's been taken over, political process is taken over, and the media is taken over, what do they feel? Hopeless. That's it. People feel hopeless. And that's not an accident. They do that on purpose so that we don't do what we're doing today and start pushing back. You either keep people divided, which is where we are now, and if you can't keep them divided, you convince people that nothing can change. And then the question is, well, where the heck, why doesn't everybody just see this, right? Why don't we just fix this right now? Well, that's because they keep us so broke and tired and out of any money, right? That we don't have the security to think about this, because money doesn't buy happiness, but shit, money buys housing, right? Money buys healthcare. Money puts food on your table. And there was a time in this country that if a company was successful, its employees could buy housing. Its employees could afford healthcare. Its employees could put food on the table. Money absolutely buys security, 100%, because without security, you're not going to have happiness. And that's what changed, is the 1% bought up all the companies, and they figured out that if they consistently underpay us, then we wouldn't have any savings. And if we don't have any savings, we're one step away from financial ruin. And when you are living on the edge, where one little gust of wind could push you off the edge, you don't speak up, do you? You don't stand up. You don't say, hey, this needs to be fixed. You do anything you can to not fall off the edge. That's why everyone in America feels so stuck, feels so pressured. And we all feel this pressure, yet there's nothing that any of us can do about it, because we are all in the same boat. But that's why everyone feels so broken. That's why everyone feels so tired. That's why everything feels so broken. Because we are all one step away from financial ruin. And then because we're so afraid of that, because we're afraid of the financial ruin, they use that fear to divide us, right? And that's why the American dream didn't disappear. It was taken from us. It was taken from us. And it's so crazy, David, is most people feel this and understand this, but because they lie to us about it, because they control the narrative, because most people don't have the time to figure out the problem, not because of any other reason than if you are sitting there treading water, you're not wondering, how did I get myself in this situation? How many other people are treading water? What systemic issues led me to treading water? No, you just think, all right, I've got to stay alive. And that's all that happens. Because when they underpay us after working our asses off, they're not just taking our dignity and our respect. They took our security too, right? And we literally can't be happy without those three things. So because they don't pay us enough, they take our dignity, our respect, and because we don't have any money, they take our security. And then we wonder why Americans are hurt, right? And everyone feels this way. We just haven't said it out loud. Yeah, move your money out of the bank. So there are things you can do individually. Take your money out of the banks, try to boycott as much as you can. But those things you're doing individually can only take us so far. Because what we need to do is boycott and strike, and we can't boycott without more local alternatives. So what we really need to do is connect locally, and local connections creates more alternatives, and more alternatives lead to more local options. So these are the numbers, right? 1% of people has 33% of the wealth in America. They have as much money as 230 million people. Absolutely, Shara Curtis, you are so right. But what we have to build is to make it so that it's not symbolic. And the way we do that is we stay connected. So if everybody that's striking today stays connected and builds local area action groups and does all the things they need to do to build more alternatives, then the next one will be less symbolic, right? It'll be a little bit more. And that's where it has to be these local action groups that start meeting by state, they break out by city. Well, what we are doing is we are building what we need to fix this. It starts in the Discord. We've got to break out by state. And we've got to understand that so many things are symptoms that are happening. The only problem is that 1% have as much as 90% of us. We have a lot of people in Washington. Go ahead, join the Discord. 1% of people have as much as 90% of us. There is no right or wrong side, Candy Kerr. We're saying that corporations don't care about you, and it's weird that they're incentivized to screw you over. You can find local groups in our Discord. And it's just strange to me that the corporations that are in charge of our health care, the corporations that are in charge of keeping us healthy, want to do anything they can rather than giving us the procedure that makes us not sick anymore. And it's strange to me that when I say, hey, corporations don't care about you, that people get upset and say, you're on the wrong side. And I'm like, what about a healthcare corporation makes you think, Dave, it's a bot, makes you think that they care about you, right? Well, what it really is the system doesn't understand, right? People that don't see a problem with the system, people that do think it's just others making bad decisions. Well, they defend the system, not because they think the system works, y'all, because they were born into this system, because they don't know anything better. I really try to describe it. It's like describing a car to somebody who's only ever seen a horse. They will always say, well, my horse seems like it's better. Well, my horse seems like it's better. But it's not. They just don't know what a car is like. And that's what we've got to understand. This system isn't loved by hundreds of millions of people. They just don't know anything else. Imagine a child that lives in a little shack, that it's cold, it's leaky, but that child has never seen another house. So they have nothing to compare it to. So when you tell them, all right, I'm going to get you out of here and we're going to go somewhere else. Well, that person will probably be like, no, don't do that. This is my home. This is my home. And they're afraid to leave, not because they don't think they're going somewhere nicer, because they cannot fathom what a home would look like that isn't their home, right? We only know what we're born into. Imagine if you didn't know that there were other languages in the world, right? Oh, other people, they use their vocal cords to make noise, but it's not the same as us, right? It's different. So that's where we need to understand how much effing money they've taken from us. It's $216,000 per adult American. If you have a partner or a husband or a wife, that's $432,000 per everyday American for a couple. That's not even a handout. That's our back pay. That's what they owe us for the last 40 and 50 years. And that's why we call them the hoarders. We're not against success. We're against greed. Greed is the disease in America today. Because this isn't about protest or awareness. This is a recruiting campaign for the people that are freaking ready to push back. Because everyone knows something is wrong. Even Benito down there. But they keep us too broke and too tired to deal with it. Or they just lie to us and we think, because my employees are at work, bro. I've got 6 locations, 35 employees, and I'm able to spend all day with my family because my employees get the job done. Because my employees and I are partners working together to accomplish a goal. And if I choose to take some of my time back, well, then you're damn right. No, you're not the person that I care about talking to. Try to stay and understand something if you want, but I really don't care what you think, Benito. You're not the kind of person that I'm trying to speak to. You still have your head in the sand. If you think that corporations have your back, if you think corporations care about you, I don't want to talk to you. I don't have any reason to. Because our silence is what actually keeps them in power. We all know there's something wrong. It's just that when we look at the issue, we don't have any hope, right? We don't have any hope. So we stay silent, not only because of the hope, but because the only rite of passage in America today, right, is to make your own way. And corporations have made it impossible for us to make our own way. And because making your own way is the only rite of passage we have in America, when we fail to make our own way, we don't talk about it, right? Because we think we're the only ones. But that's where once we look at the numbers, we can see it's a rigged carnival game. Because we got 80% of people walking up and playing the carnival game, and it should be like a, and the majority of those people are failing. And what I always like to ask people is, at what percentage of Americans need to not have any savings before you stop blaming the individual and you start saying, oh, maybe not everybody's a bad driver. Maybe the road's messed up. At what point do you finally ask that? But what you'll find out is that some people never ask that. So why spend our time talking to them? That's really what this comes down to. If somebody still has their head in the sand and they still cannot see a problem, we don't need to use our time and energy. Because what it really is there's a lack of competition in America today. But those 3 corporations that dominate that industry, they have 50 different brands that all seem like they compete against each other. So people that may have not had the best quality of education have difficulty seeing that the country is really rigged. Because corporations control all the competition. And when customers can't shop anywhere else, they are stuck. And guess what? When customers are stuck, the employees are stuck too. Because if the customer has nowhere to go, the company doesn't have to pay a higher salary because they don't need to pay the employee enough to smile. And that's how we have these low wages for graduate degree jobs. Not because the work isn't value, because the company knows they don't have to compete. So it's not even about productivity, because you can see we used to get paid along with our productivity. Now it's about leverage. They understand that if we don't have any savings, they can control us. Because right now, we can't strike or boycott. Our voices are not going to be heard because we don't have any leverage. That's also why we're all working our asses off and still falling farther behind, because we don't have any leverage to ask for a raise. So that's where we've got to understand leverage or savings is leverage. And leverage is freaking freedom, y'all. That's the part they don't want us to connect. That our economic situation and our political situation is the exact same. Because they figured out that if we don't have any savings, we can't say no. We can't say no to our job. We can't say no to politics, because the biggest thing we can do to say no is sit our asses at home. You're sick of what your boss is treating you? Well, if you had 6 months of savings, you could say, boss, I'm going to sit my ass at home for a month. You call me back in 30 days when you get your act together, and maybe I'll come back and work for you. Right? Or you tell the politicians, hey, fix this economy, fix this country, or we're not showing up for 2 weeks. But they know that we can't spend our time, right? So that's where, Laura, you are so right. We need to make sure who we're talking to. So Wheeljack, what do? I'm getting to it in just a second. Got about 30 seconds, but we are building community. But I like to keep it slow because if I go too far ahead, then we need to all get on the same page for the cure. So we're all broke, yo. We're all broke. And that's not an accident. We are all broke on purpose because our economic situation is 100% what keeps us boxed in politically. Because if none of us have savings, we're dependent on showing up for work the very next week. That's what it all comes down to. If none of us have savings, they know we'll always show up for work because we need to have that paycheck to buy food, to pay for rent, to pay for housing. And that's why life feels trapped. Life feels like walking in the goddamn mud. And really what it is that we're all in a kiddie pool and they've tied our legs with a inflatable so our legs are up and we're all just sitting here trying to stop from drowning. We're all just sitting there treading water. And when you're treading water, you do not have perspective of what's going on, right? There could be some asshole spraying the pool, making sure the water goes up and up and up. But because your head's like this and you got water all around you, you can't even see that you shouldn't be in that situation. Life shouldn't be like that. Because what we were told is that you might have to tread water for a little bit in your early 20s. But if you really tread water really hard, you will be able to eventually stand up and get some breathing room. And that's why everyone's so pissed. Because we said, we can't keep treading water for a decade, 2 decades, working 40 hours a week for 40 years. We are talking about how the economic situation in this country keeps us locked in, how the fact that corporations do not care about us at all, but corporations control everything we need to live. Corporations control all of our food, but they actively try to sell us unhealthy food so that our bodies and brains get addicted to it because they don't care whether it's good for us or not. They just want to make a profit. Then after poisoning us with terrible food, we try to go get health insurance, health care that we've paid for our whole life. Then when we try to go and get health care, they tell us, no, we are trying to make more profit, so we're not going to treat you with health care. And why is it that the companies that are tasked with providing us with healthy food don't pay us healthy food or don't give us healthy food? And why is it that the places that are supposed to take care of our health literally are incentivized by profit? Shouldn't we set something up where it's like, all right, you want to make $1 billion? Well, if you save 1 million people's lives, we'll pay you $1 billion. That makes a lot more sense because right now they're making $1 billion, but they're saying, all right, you don't get care. All right, there's $10. You don't get care. You don't get care. And this is how I'm going to make $1 billion by denying people care. Or like same with food. We're like, all right, food companies, we'll give you $1 billion if nobody goes hungry. Right? If nobody goes hungry. But right now, they're incentivized to just charge us as much money as possible. And we only accept all this because all of us are just born to it. I would say people are not asleep. Most people are awake to this. It's that we don't have any other options. So many people are like, hey, we'll do what we can to boycott things, right? We'll do what we can. But they don't actually realize that that plays into the system too. Because they're not asleep, but they're also not seeing what the actual problem is, right? Because the actual problem isn't that they can boycott some things, it's that you can't boycott what you need to live. You can't boycott food. So if somebody controls all the food, they can charge you whatever you want. You can't boycott health insurance. We all pay our health insurance to corporations. We all pay our electric bill to corporations. We all pay our rent and our mortgage to corporations. Our gasoline, our cars, all that goes to corporations. Car payments, corporations. Cell phone bill, corporation. So these corporations control everything we need to live. And we're in an interdependent society. Nobody does anything on their own. Everybody does things because of other people. We all depend on each other. And that's why this system doesn't just affect your paycheck and how much money you have. It affects your voice, right? Corporations didn't just take over the economy. They bought up all the competition. They own the media, so they lie about it. And of course, the politicians have been working for the corporations for a long time. And that's how you control people. You either keep them divided or you convince them that nothing will change. Because everybody feels this pressure. And I bet you there's a lot of people thinking, why doesn't everybody see this? Why doesn't everybody wake up to it right away? Well, number one, because we're all just treading water. And you might be thinking about it and then rent's due again, mortgages due again. And it's not so much that people are unaware, it's that we get glimpses of it and we go, oh shit, there's nothing I can do. So we go back to treading along, to treading water, right? So say you're treading water. This is a great example. Say you're treading water and you see a nuclear bomb go off in the distance, right? You're not like, oh, I'll go fix it. You're not unaware of the nuclear bomb going off. You simply are too busy trying to tread water. So, Namia, that is close, but really it's just join the Discord because everything you're saying, people aren't going to do on their own. And the big part is establishing a food co-op in one place, that won't matter. Growing your food in one place, that won't matter. Building your own home in one place, that won't matter. What if we all did it? That's all it really comes down to. What if we all did it? There's not going to be 50 million people that come together and agree. There will be 100 people, 500 people that say, F this. I'm just going to build something new. Screw this. I'm just going to build the car so that other people can see that horses are not the future. That's what we need to understand. Is that people aren't going to be convinced. People are not going to be convinced to leave this system. You have to show them something better. If somebody was born in a house and that house is all that they know, you're not going to ever convince them to leave that house. You have to go take them to the new house that you want them to go to and show them that it's better. Show them how it works for them instead of against them. That's literally what we have to do. Right now, people only know corporations. I guarantee you, if we show them co-ops, they will go back. Because co-ops work better for people. Co-ops care about the community. The people that run the co-op understand that no, we're not going to gouge people on food and water and housing and healthcare. Yeah, we might charge a tiny bit of a connection fee because there will always be people that connect people with others. That's what happens. There will always be people that connect those with others. Doctors don't want to do all the job of marketing and finding 1,000 patients and dealing with all that and dealing with payment. Doctors want to take care of you. So there will always be somebody in between that helps connect the people, that helps figure out the payment. Farmers don't want to go do marketing and stand at a stand all day. Farmers want to farm. And all of us, we don't want to call 50 different farmers to figure out where the food is. We need somebody connecting the two, a local food distributor that understands, hey, you know, I'm going to offer some food here. Because that's the really problem is that, yeah, Jennifer and Thoughts and Isms, that's exactly it. The corporations have faceless people with layers of bureaucracy. Why? So they can't be held accountable. But if we cut out the middle, well, we can't cut out the middleman. There has to be a middleman because you don't want to call, like, you don't want to drive to 20 different farmers to get broccoli, onions, potatoes, and eggs, right? It'd be so much easier if somebody connected all those farmers and you could go to one place. And I think you'd pay 50 cents more if you didn't have to drive to 9 different places. And that's where we need things like this, because these small businesses can beat the corporations. We always think, oh, this small business can never compete with the corporation because we think of it in terms of scale, in terms of offering as much as we can. But we actually can beat the corporation in one very key way. Corporations are too big to care. Corporations don't want to pay their employees enough to care. So we will always care more than them. Think, if you go to that corporate grocery store, nobody knows your name. Nobody knows your kid's name. Nobody knows about your family. But if there was that local store, we would all like to go there, that local store with the same cost. So what we do is we just get 50, 60 of us together and call up the frickin' farmer and say, hey, the corporations screw us over. We know the corporations are screwing you over. If 50 of us buy a dozen eggs from you a week, what price could you sell it to us at? And they'd probably go, 50 dozen eggs a week, right? 50 dozen eggs a week? Heck yeah, I can sell it to you for $3 a gallon, right? We are doing it, customer support. We've got a group started in Maryland, in Florida, and we got one happening in Michigan as well, too. And then what was going to happen is that people will see these and be like, oh, shit, I can start that in my area. And the even better part is people will go, oh, wait, you're buying 100 dozen eggs from that local farmer? What if I sold you? What if I got some chickens and sold you? Could I sell you like 20 eggs a week? And then we've got a bunch of small producers, each with 10 chickens, also bringing in their eggs. And we're not even relying on one big farmer who controls everything. We've got 100 different farmers, each giving us 10 eggs. And now we're selling 1,000 eggs to people in the community. Jennifer Cooper, what's crazy, or Jennifer Copper, what's crazy is this is just the way things have always been. This is just the way things were before co-op corporations. Well, I'd say just wait a minute before you come in with such negativity. because we are not talking about what's wrong. We are building what is right. All that we have to do is stay connected. You stay connected by breaking out into groups, breaking out into states. Once the state has enough people that you can break out by city, by county. Then once the counties fill up, you break out by town. Imagine a local action group in each town. And we're not talking about, hey, this is, doing random stuff here either. We all have the exact same blueprint to move forward. And that's really the key, is having the same blueprint to move forward. Because this is the decision tree for long-term action and short-term actions that we all go by, everyone in the group. You go big by going small. This isn't going to be 50 million people that all come together. This is going to be 1 million people that say, shit, I need to make money. Not you, Jennifer. Somebody, because basically we all need a side hustle anyway. Might as well have that side hustle, screw over the corporations, make our communities less dependent on people that are screwing us over. And once we have enough alternatives, that's where, mommy, you are all right, or one MO, you are all right, because general strike is the goal. We cannot do that right now. We cannot do that right now. DHU, this is what already happens in disasters. Communities come together. And we're just showing people that communities always come together when there's a problem. We just need to show people there's a problem. And I think the issue is we've all felt this problem for a long ass time. But we didn't have the next steps, right? We didn't have the next steps. Because it's going to take all of us coming together across the country in a cohesive way that we have never done before. And it's a little bit confusing because it's like, well, wait, how do all these random groups fill into each other? And that's where having the momentum loop, that's what this really turns into, is the momentum loop, is understanding that, hey, a bunch of people doing random things in different cities is actually not that random, because everybody is a part of this circle where all the actions stack on top of itself. Yup, Trey, that is one of it. So one of the ways that we have is turn your neighborhood into a community. That's one of the best ways you can start, is turn your neighborhood into a community. And we have step-by-step guides. That's the thing. Every single part that we have, every one of these green boxes, I know, Protein, this isn't supposed to be for you to read here because it's going to be too small. And as soon as I cover up my face, they get upset. So this is all on our TikTok page, but mainly it's in the Discord, y'all. You need to join us in the Discord, because Protein Shake, this is where the Discord is, where you meet other people in your state. We also meet every single Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Thoughts and Isms, that's my goal. This is 100 people that will change this country. This is 100 people that will change this country. It has to be. It's 100 people that stand up and say, shit, if I start a small business, not only could I make some money, but I could inspire other people to do it too and change the goddamn world and the country in the process. Because that's what this is. Each of these green boxes are action items. Action items that you can take. Shit, this one is, what can I do now? All of these items right here are things you can do right now to start this. If right now ain't your thing and you want to build for long term, these are all the things that you can do for long term. And then guess what? The long-term actions feed the immediate actions. The immediate actions feed the long-term actions, and we start the feedback loop. So, mommy, here's the idea. I'm so funny calling you that, but lady whose username is MOMMY. What we are doing is what we've got to understand is that this map isn't just a map of people that want to push back. This is a customer map. We have got to start seeing it that way. This is a map of potential customers. This is how many people have signed up in the last 100 days or so. We haven't had the Discord the whole time, so it's a little less on the Discord. But this is how many people around the country want change, want to see a difference. And if every one of us that sees this goes, oh, dang, I could start a small business that I eventually turn into a co-op, and all of these people are ready to support me, we don't need 20 million, not at all. You don't need 20 million at all. Because in order to get to 20 million, you start with 20. Shit. You start with 20. Those 20 get on the bullhorn and say, I'm looking for my 200. I'm looking for my 200 real ones. 4 people per state that are ready, that are sick of the same old symbolic actions, that are sick of being in the streets in November and nothing changing, and want to push back. Because what we have got to understand is that the people in power are not the people in Congress. The people in power are not our politicians. The people in power are the people that control the nation's food supply. The people in power are the people that can say, stop protesting, or you can't have any medicine tomorrow. The protein sheik, you're all right. The system won't change, though. Systems don't change. And people don't get convinced to leave them. You know what happens? Something better comes along, and people just stop using the old system. That's it. That's really it. Broken systems don't get fixed. They get replaced. But only when a better option comes along. Oh, yeah, we are part of the mass blackout group. We are helping organize a lot of these strikes and things like that. So we are definitely know the strike is going on today. My concern is, are we all going to stay connected so that we can strike again next week? So that we can strike again in 3 weeks? So that we can strike again in 4 weeks? That's the problem. We think this strike today is the thing that we're doing. No! Striking today is not the goal of today. Striking should be recruiting. You're right. The strike does nothing. Don't deny that. That's where our mindset has to be. This strike will do nothing unless I can recruit people to stay connected, right? Unless I can recruit people to stay connected, this strike won't do anything. Because strikes only work when people have financial freedom. Americans don't have financial freedom right now. Strikes only work when we have non-corporate options. We don't have a lot of non-corporate options. There ain't no local mom and pop shops anymore. And that's all that we're really saying, is that corporations control everything. The way they're able to control everything is there's no real competition for them. There's no real competition because they dominate the economy. Walmart knows you're not walking out of there and going to a local general store. So because you're not going to walk out, they're not going to pay their employees more. So the whole problem comes down to the fact that we can't go anywhere else. We are dependent on the system. So April, you can improve your lifestyle, but not for long term. Your kids are going to be worse off than you are. Their kids are going to be worse off than you are. Because just trying to improve our lifestyle is really just like, well, this is the way things are. I'm just going to move on and live my life. But that's really how we got here. When I brought this up to my parents, they said, what were we supposed to do about it? It was like, I don't know, like, think about your kids. Because that's what gets me, is that if we say, oh, this is just the way life is. No, it's fucking not. This is not the way it used to be for the previous generation, let alone 2 generations ago. Because I'll tell you, my parents bought a house in the 80s for next to nothing. It appreciated 20 times. And that wasn't even as good as my grandparents had it, where my grandfather was a pinball machine mechanic and had 5 kids, 2 cars, paid off house, and he was the only one that worked. That's because we had a voice. Our voice gave us leverage. And when we have a voice with leverage and we tell them, hey, fix this economy or we're not taking part of it, the people in charge listen because they have to listen. Right now, the economy is like a car. It's like a broken down car. And the economy needs us to push it. So the politicians and the corporations, they incentivize us to go push it. Before it was like, come push this car and you can live in a really nice house. Well, they figured out, well, dang, living in a really nice house doesn't motivate everybody. What if we did it this way? What if we took away everybody's houses and we said, you have to work for us if you want to have a house? Well, then everybody's going to come work for us. And not only that, but they're going to work for us at the lowest price possible. Because it's either come work for us or don't have a house. It's either come work for us or don't have food to eat. Either come work with us or you won't have anything that you need. And then so what it is we're all pushing this broken down car. They need us to push this car. We're the engine. To where basically it's not even a broken down car. The economy is a car where we are the engine. But we're the ones pushing it. We're all doing the work. But then the CEOs and politicians that are driving this car, they keep running over us. We're like, all right, I guess we'll go push the car. A bunch of us get ran over. And we're like, can you stop that, please? Can you stop that, please? The stock market's doing great. I say the economy as regular, everyday Americans. Stock market has gone up and up and up. Salaries have stayed the same. In fact, salaries have stayed the same so much that if you look up the average salary in most places, that average salary is the exact same as the average cost of living. So it's always very funny to me when people say, oh, the economy's doing great, when the average cost of living and the average salary are close to the exact same. And then they'll point out that, oh, that's because people are lazy because they're not choosing this or that. And then we could pull up the productivity graph as well, too, where the money we made for the company skyrocketed and the money they paid the employees stayed the same. And that's where we've really got to understand there are 3 types of people. People that do not see any problem whatsoever. We don't care about them. You don't need to care about them. You can still be friends with them. You just don't need to talk to them about this. So people that do not see any problem, that's one group of people. People that see a problem, but either think it's their fault or the individual's fault. We can talk to them for a little bit, because if they are actually an empathetic and educated person, it only takes a few minutes to talk to them to show that, hey, it seems like it's everybody's fault, but really it's not. It's nobody's fault. because it's the system. It's like if you see a carnival game and you see 100 people walk up to a carnival game and 90 people out of those 100 all fail. Do you think that those 90 people are stupid or lazy? Or do you think that the game was rigged and only 10 people were ever going to win it? Because that's how the rigged system stays in charge. Because then what they do is they don't allow people to see the system's rigged, mainly because people just point fingers left and right. And anytime people point fingers left or right, they are literally being manipulated by the billionaires. So anybody that's in the chat pointing fingers left or right, the rest of us are looking at you like someone who's playing right into the hands of someone who's more powerful and stronger than you are. So stop playing into the hands of people that are manipulating you, because it's really not left versus right. Yup. Both parties are two sides of the same coin, and that coin is in a billionaire's pocket. And it's really more like good cop, bad cop. They try to appeal to every single American so that half of us think they're good cops and bad cop, and then the other half thinks the other half is a good cop and a bad cop. And then they sit back while we argue amongst themselves. Whereas I'm saying, hey, can we just stop arguing? None of us have enough to live. And I think the reason the corporations have all the power is that we can't stop arguing amongst ourselves. Wouldn't that make more sense? That the corporations have the power simply because we won't stop arguing amongst ourselves? Because what we do is we let ourselves get distracted. There's 50 people here. Rather than talking to the 45 people that love this, right? We always push back against the 5 people that don't. Well, Jennifer, that's why I come on here every single day at 11 a.m. to show people that you can take action. You can choose to take action now. You can choose to take action later. It all feeds the same loop. We all have to break out by state and stay connected. That's probably the most important. Break out by state and stay connected. How do we stay connected? We meet every single week. Not only am I live here on YouTube and Instagram every day at 11 a.m., we also meet every single Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, because I like seeing y'all's faces and I want to chat with y'all and I want to get to know you, Girardi and Jennifer and Sandra and all of our new friends. Ryan, it's my favorite thing in the world when people are in the live and come to, we call it the Citizens Assembly, because it's a bunch of citizens assembling to try to do something better, right? We meet on Zoom. We're going to move to like StreamYard or something. But if you go to the Discord, we send out the meeting link every weekend. So I'll do it tomorrow, and then I'll do it Sunday, and then we'll meet Sunday evening. Hey, Sacred Mischief, great to have you. Well, that is no problem because we are still in recruiting mode. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Sacred Mischief, if you could come this week to the Citizens Assembly, we've got some really cool things we're going to be putting out together, where especially kind of going over this loop. Good to see you. I am doing well. Just excited to not be stuck in after this storm, and working with the mass blackout to get everything set up there. And it's really great, though, because obviously we've got the strike today. We need to keep the momentum from that. Oh, no, you're good. That's where I'll send you the stuff, too. And we've actually are building it out in the Discord so that we will have the updates. You're just somebody that is very active and good at this. So I figured I'd let you know, right? Are you afraid, Zero? Are you scared? That is great, Sandra, because that's where what we're thinking is we got to do it again, right? Just today isn't enough. And in order to do it again, people need more financial freedom. People need more non-corporate options. Because here's the cool thing, right? If we start 1 million small businesses, well, if a couple of those blow up, well, then they become competition to the corporations. We make sure they still hold the same values. They are a steward. Girardi, I'm glad you said that, because this isn't for conservatives or progressives. Like, we are all different, right? We are all different. I don't care what your leaning is. I care, do you think corporations are screwing us over? Do we think politicians and corporations are working together to screw us over? And we think that small businesses and local actions adding up across the nation is how we turn local action into national leverage. Yep. That's where Girardi, that's where it's the same thing to me. We could have polar opposite beliefs. All humans need food to eat, and they'd like somewhere warm to eat it in, and they'd like to not be sick while they're sitting in their warm house eating their food. That's it. And I think we're all willing to work for it. We're all willing to work for it. But here's the thing. If somebody says, all right, I need you to work for 10 days and I'll pay you $10, you'll be like, screw that. The effort that I'm putting in isn't matching what I'm getting back. Well, that's what people are doing with the economy today, right? It's so insane when people call others lazy or say that nobody wants to work. Because to me, you're not looking at laziness. You're looking at somebody that's going, wait, you want me to put out how much effort in order to only get this much back? And after putting in all that effort, I still have to go through the shame of getting medical assistance, getting housing assistance. Shit, if I'm working full time, I should at least get enough to live. And that's all that we're saying. Well, that's where I'm saying is that when people see somebody who is not working and they say, what? That person's just lazy. I'm like, no, maybe they've been searching for jobs for a year and every job they go to lowballs them. And so when they look at how much that job pays them versus, oh, wait, I could be working 40 hours a week and still not be able to afford housing. Well, why would I accept that job, right? Because it doesn't pay me enough to live. And thank God, yep, Zero, thank God we have people that do accept those jobs, because Americans, it's been shown as a fact, they do not take a lot of jobs that we feel are beneath us. You know, who does take those jobs? Immigrants. And that's what's always made this country great. Not only is that a fact, but every single one of us are immigrants too. So it's always funny to me when somebody pushes back against immigrants. I'm like, oh, are you a Native American? Did your family not come here looking for opportunity? All issues are nuanced, but you can say for a fact the problem is not immigrants. Everybody knows that immigrants contribute to a society. And on general, they're doing jobs. And this is where, you know, the conservative versus not, you are joining a group that believes all people have intrinsic value, no matter where you come from. And all immigrants add to a society. That's not an opinion. That is an economic fact. An economic fact. And that's where it's always funny to me, because the facts are feelings. Trey, you're wrong. It's so funny, because if you could tell me how many of your friends lost their job because of an illegal immigrant, that's all I need to know. How many people do you personally know that lost their job because of an illegal immigrant? That's all. If all of us knew people, I would listen to you. If every single person, because you know what we all have a story of? We all have a story of showing up early, staying late, hiring half the staff, right? And then we go and ask for a raise and they tell us no. Because that's what I'm hearing. I hear you, Trey. Good call. You're right. And they make it illegal because then the employer has all of the power. And goddamn, we've heard so many people where it's, oh yeah, I literally heard somebody on TikTok where it was like, yeah, I hired a bunch of people, then called, ICE, and it was messed up. So Acid Mouth, great name. That's what we are doing. We are building what we need. We've got local action groups that are coming together. First, we start by state. We build out state by state. Each of those states all work towards the same goal. You can choose whether to do something immediately or you can choose to do something long term. The immediate option, you can either choose to pressure against the system, write letters to the editor, to your local, because this is what's cool. You don't need 50 people. You can put pressure on the system with 3 or 4 people in your area. You all write similar letters to the editor. You all show up to the city council meeting. You show up to the Chamber of Commerce meeting. You do lots of rallies and protests and recruiting, because what you're doing is you're bringing people in the short term to help build long-term organization, long-term planning. Then that long-term planning, that long-term organization supports the short-term efforts. And we are creating the momentum loop, the feedback cycle that we need. Today, we cannot waste today or this weekend. It needs to be a funnel to bring more people in, to show them that, hey, it's not just about one day of striking. The strike is the day that we stay connected. It's how we find each other, but that is not the end goal. Staying connected is how we actually win. And it's not going to be thousands of people, so stop looking around. It's you that needs to step up. Because there is already somebody in your state, in your area, that's saying, all right, well, I'll do this if somebody else starts it. I'll do this if somebody else takes the lead on it. And that's where we need to understand we have so many people that are just waiting for somebody. We are just waiting for somebody. America right now feels like a crowd of people. And we're all uneasy. But we're all waiting for somebody else to yell the first thing. And that's what I want to see, the first 100 people that stand up and say, what the hell's going on? Because as soon as you do that, you're going to have 20, 50, 100 other people all stand up with you and say, I was thinking the same thing. I was just afraid to say it out loud. So that's what the strike is today. It's not the end goal. It's the first 100 people standing up and saying, hey, let's do this again next week. Because I guarantee you'll get 50 people in your area all say, I was thinking the same thing. I just was afraid to speak up. So that's what we're looking for today. Yeah, we're on Upscrolled. That's what we're looking for today. Who wants to stand up? Who wants to be ones of people? Not that convinces others that this system is broken, but just builds a new system. Because what that does is that takes politics out of the mother effing equation. You don't need to convince anybody. We weren't convinced to leave local grocery store or local farmers markets for corporate grocery stores. Corporate grocery stores just built a better product. We weren't convinced to leave horses for cars. Ford didn't call us all up and send us flyers. Drop your horse and buy a car instead. It's the right thing to do. No, he goes, check this out, mofos. I know y'all want one. I don't even need to talk about it. Well, Accent, that's where join the Discord. Hopefully we got more people doing the same thing in your area. If not, you can inspire them. That's really what it comes down to. Because then somebody will see what you're doing and they'll say, oh, well, I'm all about labor, or I'm all about pushing back in the government. And then you can join forces, right? Two people walking the same path, working the same momentum loop on different sides, right? All feeding the same goal, building local power. Because local power, local groups leads to more local options. More local options allows us to boycott, because we can't boycott without alternatives. And the ability to boycott means we do more mass actions, and more mass actions means we stay connected, and then we're starting the loop all over again. So that's where we are coming together to be the change that we want to see. Join the Discord if you haven't yet. The Discord link is in our bio in the link tree.